Hello, I'm Keith, and it's my turn to share a thought for today. Some of the sayings of Jesus are very beautiful, but to many people, they seem hopelessly out of touch with the world as we know it. Take, for example, these sayings from one of the readings set for this coming Sunday from Luke's Gospel, chapter 12. Jesus says, "Therefore, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the birds. They neither sow nor reap, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. And do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying. For it's the nations of the world that strive after all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, strive for his kingdom, and these things will be given you as well," says Jesus. Well, we think, how naive, how unaware of what happens in the natural world and how we have to cope with life in our society. Nature red in tooth and claw, we say. We say that for the birds of the air and the flowers of the field and all creatures, life is a battle for survival, survival of the fittest. Of any species, only those members of it who are best fitted to thrive in their environment will pass on their genes to their offspring. Human life, too, we say, is a fierce competition. Society moves on by the struggle for economic success, whether for individuals, whole classes, or indeed whole nations. The devil take the hindmost. Now it's interesting that these ideas of the struggle for survival in nature and of the competitive human society arose about the same time in the 19th century. There's been lively debate as to why this is so. Did Charles Darwin draw his ideas about evolution from what he saw in the increasingly competitive worlds of commerce and industry of his time? Or did the get-rich-quick industrialists see themselves as simply being true to nature, the law of the jungle? Perhaps each reinforced the other. Either way, the picture of life as basically a competition for survival is a very powerful one that permeates so much of our culture and outlook. Alongside it, the words of Jesus about placing ourselves and all our needs in the loving care of our Heavenly Father do seem hopelessly naive. But wait a moment, is competition for survival the whole picture even of what happens in the natural world? The thought occurred to me earlier this year when my wife and I spent a week on Tenerife in the Canary Islands. Being a bird watcher of long standing, I was keen to see not only the brightly coloured singing birds named after the islands, but some other birds native to them, especially the Berceau's pipit, a little grey-brown bird like a small lark. We found a small party of them on the slopes of Mount Teide, the extinct volcano which dominates so much of the island. They were so small and inconspicuous, we almost missed them, then found them feeding practically under our feet. And Mount Teide seems a most inhospitable spot for anything to live. Freezing cold in winter, scorchingly hot in summer, just barren rock the year round. But yes, the birds do somehow survive there, and maybe the clue lies in their togetherness, their soft cheeping calls to each other as they search out the seeds among the rocks. Life for them is certainly a struggle, but it's a communal one, of looking out for one another, of calling to one another. Some scientists are saying today that even trees can talk to each other in their own way. Through their root systems and the fungal life attached to them, they somehow communicate and share information about water supply, soil nutrients, things they all need to survive. We can go even further. Physicists investigating what goes on inside the tiny atom have discovered certain tinier particles which are always found in pairs and which spin together in the same way, like a pair of dancers. But they also find that if you shoot a strong magnetic pulse at one of them, making it spin in the opposite direction, the other one then instantly copies it and spins the same way, even when they're relatively far apart. Even when it's so far apart that scientists say it's like having one billiard ball here in Portishead and another in Singapore, and you spin the one here in Portishead and the one in Singapore spins itself in the same direction too. Our universe isn't just separate material things existing independently of each other. There's a network of energy connecting everything and insisting on togetherness, which is part of creation. As well as the competition for survival, there's another side to nature, of togetherness. Jesus doesn't say, just trust in God and you'll have all you need. He says, strive for God's kingdom and these things will be given you. His kingdom is the kingdom not of anxious striving for ourselves, but the kingdom, the power of togetherness, of community, of justice, sharing, of looking out for one another. That's how God's generous provision actually comes to us. It's reflected in the very fabric of nature, and it's built into creation. It's the true basis of our lives. It's God's own way of being, God's kingdom. If we humans, we're increasingly suspecting, are to survive on our fragile planet, it will finally not be because of our competitiveness, but our togetherness. Jesus isn't so naive, after all.